Today is April the 13th, 2021, and we're with Charles D'Amico, who's running for the Amarillo Independent School District Board of Trustees. Charles, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you being very flexible with my crazy schedule the last week plus.
No problem. Let's start off by telling the voters who you are, what you do, a little bit about you, where you grew up. Then we'll go into why you want to run for the school board.
All right. Like I said the other night at one of the events, my wife and I are the out-of-towners. She was born in New Orleans. I was born in Detroit. We met in Ohio and moved out here in 2016 to buy the Jimmy John's locations, the two that existed. And then we built the one downtown. We grew pretty fast, and we've got Lubbock and Santa Fe as well as Amarillo. But the biggest thing we noticed really quickly about this town was how much it felt like home. I think within 6 months, I felt more comfortable here than anywhere I lived. The reason we came here, not just for Jimmy John's, but we looked all over the country. I'm the son of two teachers. Mother passed away over a decade ago, and my father's retired. And my wife's been active with our local elementary with our kids on the Booster Club. And I wanted to just kind of keep giving back a little bit, but that's kind of what brought us here and kept us involved in the community from day one. As business owners, we've worked with like Paladuro High School and stuff like that. But more about just me, I guess, because I always get carried away. My apologies. 39. I'm an 80s kid, born in 81 in Detroit. A little bit of a broken home growing up. Parents originally got divorced, and then my stepfather adopted me. And had some rough times. I remember living at my aunt's place and sharing a bed with my mom and my sister for about 2 years and having, 2 days worth of clothes, and that was it. And when I met my wife in Ohio, I was working for a restaurant out there and didn't really know anybody. We actually met online. Wasn't trying to date, was just trying to find out what to do in this small town of Lima, Ohio. And she came and saw me at work and told me to hang out with her and her friends, and the rest is history. We've been together now 14, going on 15 years. We got 2 kids, a 6-year-old girl, 8-year-old boy, both in the AISD school district. And when we moved out here, we started at San Jacinto Elementary because we were in kind of a smaller, low-income apartment because it's all we could afford. We sunk everything we had to come out here and buy the businesses. And we kind of saw that kind of gambit. And I remember working with those teachers there, and then we started working with some of the Paladuro High School teachers, and it was like everybody was nice. Even the mean people and rude people were nice. So I tell people when I go back home or if I go out of town, they say Amarillo, and I was like, even if the person being mean to you is rude, they usually have a buddy close by. Like it's one of the coolest towns I've ever been in. I've never felt more at home, and that's kind of, I guess, the short story of Detroit. Met my wife in Ohio, and then took this big leap to come out here.
Well, that's fascinating. So why do you want to be on the school board?
I've kind of grown up in service. To a little kind of drop back to my history. I went to an all-boys prep school where my mom taught. And I didn't realize until later in life she taught at that high school so I could go there because we couldn't afford it otherwise. And it's the old kind of private, like, we can't pay you, but your kids can come here. And I won the Osenham Award. It was 99. That's a community service award for St. Vincent de Paul for community service hours in Michigan. And I didn't think anything of it. And then my mom and this charity kind of pointed out that every day after school, after football season, I stopped at this soup kitchen and I moved boxes for these ladies every day. And to me, I lived about 45 minutes from my high school. It was a decent drive. And the construction was horrible and the traffic was horrible. But if I killed an hour, it wasn't bad. And to me, the natural thing was just to help them because I did it once for school. And I was like, oh, they're like, if you ever need help. And it was on my way. So one day I pulled off, and then the second day, and then the third day. And that's just kind of how I've been most of my life, was just find a way to serve. And this community has been so good to me. I just wanted to find a way to continue to give back. And I thought, what better way than to continue to kind of be in the room in the development of the school district, something my kids are going to grow up in, hopefully their kids someday, and just kind of to be there and kind of help continue the growth of help support a town that's been amazing to me.
Very good. So, what do you think's the most important thing that the Amarillo Independent School district has going for it right now?
Well, I think there's a lot of energy, whether it's teachers, administrators. I think there's been a lot of like the new buildings that are going up, the tech center, the revamping of a lot of the schools. I think the board the last couple of years has realized the direction it needs to go, and we just kind of have to continue that path. I know a lot of the schools are 80s and 90s schools, just like the touchy subject when people bring up the Civic Center. It's not easy decisions, but infrastructure, investing in your schools, and smart decisions. Obviously, you can make bad ones, right? You don't need like a $2 million gym. But making sure that kids have the right facilities to level the playing field of all students so that they can see the future, see that growth, but also give back to their community. And the reason why I bring that part up is I grew up in the Metro Detroit area, and I used to see plenty of schools that were just really bad. I haven't seen anything nearly similar to Detroit out here, but there's still some older schools, and it's hard to get that kid who grows up in that low-income environment to go to school every day, where maybe the walls are dilapidated or their lockers are rusted out, or they don't have the things they need to see their success, because all they see is this degraded failure, right? And plenty of studies have been done that show you give the kid the right environment and they're going to find their way out. But more than anything, then it keeps them even more tied to that community they grew up in. If the school system is giving this kid an amazing place to be, they're going to want to continue to grow that part of their community. And finding that way to reinvest properly in the schools is important. And I think it's the way I grew my business wasn't just sheer money. I'm a broke kid from Detroit, but it was picking my places where I could go, a lot of hard work here can maximize our budget so that we can invest over here. And that, I think, is a really big key thing that I bring to this. I think I'm the right amount of youth in that I'm young enough that I still have that glasses half full sunshine view that I did in my 20s. I haven't been burnt out quite yet. And I've been able to develop a business to see, okay, sometimes you got to slow down, pick your battles. Sometimes you got to be a little bit aggressive. And you have to know when you make a decision as a board member, whether it's city council, mayor, anything in politics, that you are going to alienate and upset some people. But instead of running from it, you got to stand out in front of it. You got to take the questions. You got to take it on the chin. And then it's your job to, even if you can't sell them on your plan, at least make them feel confident that you're not making a decision with poor information. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm a real wordy person. My apologies.
Oh, I think that's well said. Yeah. So what do you see that the Amarillo Independent School District needs to improve upon?
Well, I think all school districts need to do better. And I'm not just Amarillo. I haven't been in a city I think that does it amazing. I mean, I'm sure they are, but the way we structure and support teachers to support our students, I think is a huge problem. It's not just pay. I do think we're pretty competitive when you look at the numbers, at least the public numbers. Like administration across the board, we're pretty consistent with what the market pays upper administration. And some people can feel it's a bloated payment, but you're not going to get good administration if you pay 40% under the market value. You might if you home grow it, right? But you have to have a really good foundation to pull that off. And teachers are paid competitively well throughout the market. I think the drop-off that I see when I talk to teachers, with the ones that my kids have been around and just the ones that come in our stores, is it's time, quality of time, not just with the student, but in general, right? And you could give a teacher, I think, a 20% pay raise tomorrow. Like, let's say you could do it fiscally. But if you don't support them with the right structure to where they're never really dropping below 80, 85% in their battery, like their mental battery, work relate, then it's useless. That money's not being put in the right place. And what I mean is, it's one thing if they're stretching themselves thin outside. You know what I mean? Like, they love mountain climbing and they love every weekend they're gone, and that's different. But if their job is draining them so much that when they're in class by Thursday and Friday, that they're at like 30 or 40%, 12 cups of coffee in, that kid's not getting the right education. And it's not for lack of effort, it's just because we haven't set the system up to support them. I think that's one big thing we have to really look at is getting creative with the way we work with the schools and the younger teachers that are in college, coming up with maybe a hybrid plan that we can be creative with to stick maybe that freshman to senior year, that kid who's in college with the same school, with the same set of kids if possible, so they can really groom our kids and work with them shoulder to shoulder. The student in college is going to learn more because they're going to watch how these kids progress in the group that they're studying. The teachers are going to get way more support as opposed to just funneling these kids in 2 weeks at a time. I think if we structure it right, you can really create a system that not only helps Amarillo grow, but really be something that the rest of the country looks at, honestly. And this community is a community I think that can pull it off because the people are awesome.
So you kind of want to create a synergy between the administration, the teachers, and the students.
And the college
parents.
students especially, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm a little out there sometimes.
No, that's what we need. We need people that think outside the box a little bit and come up with ideas on how to the way we've always done things may not always be the right way.
I do think, though, there's a way to honor tradition and really hone in on some amazing things that have gotten us this far. Because if you try to change everything overnight, it ain't going to work.
Right.
One of my favorite things about what I do for a living, I tell people all the time, I'm not in the sandwich business. I'm in the people business. I need great people to serve the great people coming in. And I love taking unskilled workers and giving them a future, whether it's with me or with somebody else. Taking that 18-year-old, 16-year-old kid off the street or, barely out of high school and grooming them to be a shift manager with us. And I don't even look at it like they're my employee. I'm just renting them. I'm their teacher temporarily. And I love the aspect of teaching. We do like P&Ls and stuff with our managers. So we teach them how to balance a store. And a lot of businesses don't do that. They get mad at, they're even a 35 or 40-year-old manager. But if he's never seen the financials of how the business is running, how is he supposed to be responsible for it? I teach 19-year-olds this stuff. And I think sometimes we don't give kids enough credit. We don't give teachers enough credit and give them the right tools. And that's one of the things I'm looking forward to running for and being on that board is just being in a position to ask the question that might lead to the right resolution and then put the work in. I have a tendency to bite off way more than I can chew and then work like crazy to not look like an idiot. It's got me this far. So, my dad calls it the entrepreneurial spirit. So I was really lazy till I was about 26. And then one day I woke up and just started putting it all together. And now I try to help people get there a little bit quicker because it's fun to win. It's fun to do great, but it's even cooler to watch 20 other people do great. And you had a little bit of help in it, Yeah. So that's why I'm running.
Well, you said earlier something about you were also a publisher.
Yes. During COVID, with all the rules that were in place, if we were sending people home, we still had to pay them. And my natural inclination, if I walk into a store that's slow, is to save labor and to send people home. So I kind of steered clear of certain times of the day that my natural instinct would take over. And I got back into writing. And when I started getting into writing, I started looking into publishing and talking to literary agents. And I was like, I really want to understand the industry before I kind of get, just trust somebody else with my work. So I created a publishing company called Blue Handle Publishing. We advertise on the radio. We've done some pretty cool things. We've got another local author, Andrew J. Brandt, signed another new author. We're about to announce pretty soon. And I've got another new local person that just came in. She's my vice president, went to school at University of Texas in Austin, was in New York for a couple of years and came back. And I would love to get writing scholarships in the city of Amarillo, work with the schools, all the local school districts, and do writing competitions, groom talent, show kids that there's an ability and a future in the arts. Even if they want to become a lawyer, fine. You want to become a doctor, this is still something you can do along the way. And I think there's some amazing, talented people. This region of the country just has a cool vibe about it. New Orleans, people always talk about New Orleans because of like how it sits. And my wife's from there. I got married there. And to me, this honestly feels like New Orleans in the plains, in the canyon out here. And what I mean by that is there's a vibe. There's a really cool culture out here. And I feel like if we cultivate and groom and give people this carrot that it's possible, that we can get some really cool things coming down the road. That's why I created the company, was to not just be, oh, look, there's one or two authors, but there's a local publishing company that's trying to grow here to do something really cool in this region. I even tried to buy the rights to Authortown USA so I could put a billboard outside Amarillo if one of us strikes it as a best-selling author, to just arbitrarily call ourselves Authortown Amarillo. Hey, if Detroit could call itself Hockey Town after winning 2 championships, we can call ourselves Authortown USA.
There you go. Well, that's fascinating. So what happens once you find an author and get them, so you get it published and then you have to distribute?
Right. We invest in our authors. So in the publishing industry, there's 2 traditional ways. There's the publisher buys the rights to the book and you get a royalty back on your book. If you're, crushing it, you might get an advance on that royalties, but it's essentially all it is I'm buying your book and then you get 10 cents on the dollar moving forward. That's kind of traditional publishing. Then there's what's called vanity publishing, which some people don't like the name, but it's pay for play. You pay for everything as an author, but somebody else does the work for you. What we're doing is we're investing in the authors and we're giving them ownership of their book, and then we get the royalty. So theoretically, think of it like a 1-to-2 ratio back. If I invested 10 grand in an author over 3 years, I want to see 12 grand come back to me. And then for the rest of the life of that book, they'll get 60, 70, or 75%. And then we only get the 25, as opposed to the opposite. I want authors to start getting ownership back of their work, because I think anybody in business would be like, wait, I get a 1-to-2, I get a 20% return. I'll sign up for that. And I think that's enough. I don't need to be greedy and then get 50, 60, 70 and give them a couple pennies. And I feel like if the author or whoever the artist is feels they're really going to own it for life, it takes a lot of pressure off on the next couple pieces of work, because they don't feel like they're getting nickel and dime to kind of run through a system. And that's, dare to change the industry that's been there forever. So I guess check back in on me in 5 years.
So have you written any books that have been published?
Yes, I have 5 books out right now. 4 books that are part of a series. Another book called One Golden Day, which takes place here in Amarillo. And then I've got 8 unpublished books that I'm working through. I wrote just under 1 million words last year while working full time. I'm one of those people. I'm kind of, like I said, I get kind of addicted to something a little bit work related, and I just kind of keep going. And I was really lucky to find a cool editor. Yeah, his name's William. He actually edited books for Dwight D. Eisenhower. Guy's in his 80s. He started editing back in the 60s. And normally an editor, they're based out of New York, the editing agency I work with. You're lucky if you get the same author like twice in a year. And he got to do nothing but edit my books for a year because I had so many. So he just got to go from one book to the next to the next. And I mean, he's going to retire soon. And he said it was a pretty cool treat to be able to do that. So we'll see. It's pretty fun.
So are these fiction?
Yes. Andrew J. Brandt does kind of shorter books. He does young adult, and then he does kind of like a Stephen King. The new author we brought in, his name is Jordan Reed. He does fantasy, like thriller. I think like slightly more modern Harry Potter world, but like James Patterson, like the two worlds coming together. I write traditional thriller suspense in the storyline, but I'm not a big fan of the way most fiction's written. If I turn it on TV, it's just not what clicks for me. So I write a little bit different than most. So some people describe it as reading TV. It's the way it's heavy dialogue, but it's written in a really easy conversational tone. And to me, it's just been, I don't think I would have survived the pandemic with all the stress of keeping the businesses afloat without all that writing. I'll be honest. I needed an outlet.
So your businesses, are they back up running full steam now?
Our New Mexico ones are still kind of chugging along. Our Texas ones, yeah, we lucked out. We had about 3 months in, so around June, July. 2 of my West Texas locations kind of took off, and they carried the load with us kind of working that we didn't have to shut any store down. our payroll was almost the exact same last year as it was in 2019. So we literally kept every manager employed, my area manager, everybody essentially got their same hours. And actually we increased all of our wages last year by 40%, which I didn't realize until I reviewed this year.
See why you didn't make any money.
Yeah, that's all right. I can make my car payment, my house payment, and we survived the year. Knock on wood. I'll call that a win.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I guess actually yours is primarily takeout.
Correct.
So that probably benefited you.
A few of our stores, yes. We saw delivery go down a lot, but that's because we had more competitors. We actually, right around the time we started doing the free Little John giveaway last year, we lowered all of our prices, our sides to $1. So that way we have like some cheap options on the menu. And we did so good with it, I never went back. It's just like,
yeah, if it works.
I'd rather have more customers and an affordable menu than nickel and diming a few other customers that come in the door. So.
Yeah. Very good. So do you have a website that people can go to?
I've got a Facebook page. It's Charles D'Amico AMA. I don't have a ton up on, I guess, my platform. I tell people if you go to Blue Handle Publishing, there's a submission form. You can reach out to me. If you go to my Facebook page, send me a message, shoot me an email, charles@bluerockjj as in jimmyjohns.com. Heck, just call one of my stores and ask to speak to Charles. They'll either get me your info ASAP or they'll just give up my number. They do it all the time. Heck, if you Google my name, my phone number comes up. I think it's like on the second page from like press releases and news stories. It's not hard to get a hold of me. And I'm just one of those people, man, just find me. I'll sit down with you and talk to you.
Okay. Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell the voters as to why they should choose you over the rest of the candidates?
Well, I can tell you whether I win or I don't win, I'm not going to stop working for the city and the community that I love. Because again, I know I've only been here 4.5, it'll be 5 years in August. I've literally never felt more home anywhere in my life. And I spent 20 plus years of my life in Metro Detroit than I do here. And if it's not school board, I'll just keep finding a way to keep giving back. And I think that's the reason to vote for me is I've got businesses in the area. I've supported the area, supported schools, whether it's through giving away free sub cards or donating. Like we sponsor Paladuro baseball and the program over there. I actually tried really hard to get Jimmy John's to change the FDD so I could use my local marketing dollars to buy them a baseball field back in 2016. I just like to think big like that. I like to find ways to pull off the absurd in a way that's beneficial for people without just throwing money at it. I just feel like if you slow down enough, you get creative enough, you can really do some cool stuff. And I think that's why people should vote for me.
Yeah, not everything takes money. It takes brains.
Takes a little creativity. Yeah. I've always been that guy. I did some work with a company in New York called Dine Safe. Now it's called I Was Poisoned. They're the largest collection of foodborne illness in the U.S. And the guy used to be the vice president of Morgan Stanley. He connected through, I think, my wife's sister-in-law. And he's like, yeah, I was told you're one of those people that you walk into a room with a bunch of people who've been staring at a problem for like a week and you go, hey, did you try this? It's like, yeah, but I'm really quiet when I don't know the answer. So I can sometimes come off like a know-it-all. I know when to be quiet. So,
very good. Well, welcome to Amarillo, and thanks for coming by, and good luck.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you.